Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the 10-Minute Product Podcast. Today is about AI, and this is the first episode of a trilogy where we're going to deep dive into some of the topics and considerations you need to do as product leader to approach AI the right way. And today's topic is about it starts with the use cases. And Christian, kind of over to you. When I say use cases and AI, what do you think?
I'm thinking much easier work for myself as a product person, of course. But jokes apart, the AI, the current crop of AI is quite astounding in the sense of how much it can help you. It's quite incredible in terms of how much it increases your productivity. It also has side effects such as interesting, data points that then turn out to be not exactly accurate. So you have to figure out everything yourself. But I think with the focus on the latest Gen AI and LLM engines, um, I think it's interesting to review for any leader of a company what the different use cases of AI are and what can you do with it and what can you do for your business basically. So there's not just Gen AI or LLM, but there's different use cases I can think of from image recognition to voice recognition to prediction of behaviors of users. So we've gone through different stages over the years. Everything nowadays is, you can buy it on the AI marketplace, so to speak. And it's incredible because it's all abstracted. But it's interesting because the companies have issues. Every company I talk to, at least, has issues about where should I start. And so I think we could review the different use cases that exist and that companies can look at in order to give ideas to teams of what they could attack, basically.
Completely right. And I think just to hone in on what you said, where to start. Uh, I think the point is to start as simple as possible, right? Because this is a journey for you as well, where you explore where you can use what are your AI use cases, and how should you kind of resolve towards it.
So I would even start one step earlier. So if you say what are your AI use cases that a lot of companies don't know at all, and they think that AI magically is going to do something that doesn't exist for them. And I like to start with companies writing down, first of all, what are my use cases?
Mm.
What do you do for your customers? Where is your added value? What are the ins and outs of the different processes, the inputs and outputs? I like to start there and make a list with them, basically. Then start to add things on top that could be creative or could be new.
Exactly. And generally, when you look across a landscape of use cases, and I think the point you were making, right, Christian, is there's actually your use cases don't change. What you have a method of delivering to them that is now with an AI aspect to it. So that's great. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, AI or the use cases are not changing with AI. Um,
yeah,
but so in effect, as you look across your landscape of use cases and you map them out, you understand them thoroughly, generally what you see is there's kind of one proportion of use cases that kind of topically is around automation. So task completion. User
yeah,
wants to complete a flow of tasks and accomplished a goal. And they usually is around center around the kind of metric around time saved to complete a task. And then another proportion of the use cases are usually around either quality assurance around whether I'm making the right decision or providing information or data to a user to make the right decision.
yeah.
That's another half of them. But generally speaking, this is the kind of type of use cases applying an AI uptick to it that you kind of see it group themselves into.
Interesting. I'm going to jump back a tiny bit in history
Mm.
and talk about two use cases that are dear to my heart. One of them is predictive AI, which is based on big data generally, but that helps you from past behaviors. So from clicks of users, from search terms of users, helps you figure out what are people likely to do in the future. And this still applies nowadays. You can apply LLMs to user behaviors, but you can still apply big data plays as well. And you can feed the big data to the LLM. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want. But the interesting bit there is that you can, from past behaviors of other users, try to predict what new users are going to do. And that's really helpful. And that's very used in things such as retail, such as online stores, online shopping, or things, converting actions, for example, of users and figuring all that out. The other I would mention is image recognition. And so one of those really, really interesting things about image recognition, the latest I saw, is a car rental company using LiDAR and webcams combined, very high resolution, but that's to notice bumps and scratches in the car body when you bring it back. So they take an image, they take a full scan when you leave, and they take a full scan when you come back. Um, but generally, image recognition is one of those that is still in use quite a lot, and many companies can make use of this. You could you can do object classification, you can do quality controls, you can do counting, you can look at what type of things are there. I know some supermarkets that are testing with this kind of technology. But yeah, these are the two that are still dear to my heart, for example, that are not directly LLMs.
Yeah, I also got a case where something that starts very simple kind of evolves and you along a journey as you develop a feature, a product
Mm.
towards something, then you kind of apply more and more and different types of technologies to resolve them. I worked for a couple of years ago in a global retailer who had several thousand stores in a global store network. They had production out in Southeast Asia, and a huge business problem or question for them internally was that where to ship the products. Where did we see a particular product category uh, sell best in which stores? And then, kind of with that, kind of the supply chain center question, that kind of evolved towards being able to capture data in the stores around
Yep, that's a
store
good one.
visits to get the store conversion. And then from there, kind of over to the marketing domain, where you kind of say, okay, we did not see this
Yep.
store convert. Should we generate more higher quality traffic to the store? And then became kind of hyper local marketing. So, but is this a case where you kind of start simple with one particular, in this
Mhm.
case, it started as an advanced analytics case, purely making data available, fairly
Yep.
static data, but then
I,
that kind of evolved and the kind of technology solutions towards it became more and more sophisticated.
So I've made a good experience with exactly what you said right now. Start small and iterate. And interestingly, is applying the same methods as before, but to AI solutions is validating at every step and trying it with the users, figuring out that they know and understand what they're doing, and then building from there, right? Because there's many cases where I've seen companies now do, we need AI.
Mm.
And I'm sure anybody listening to this will have a laugh because yes, everybody, all of us were in these meetings, is we need AI. We need to walk away from this meeting with at least 3 AI initiatives in the company. And the interesting bit is that if you do just pure AI initiatives as an experimentation, that's great. But if you start analyzing use cases, you will make much faster progress basically in terms of changing your company's attitude to it because you will see the results coming in faster as well. So I think that part of the methodology of product still applies. But yes, to AI, to new things basically.
And I think as a product leader, how do you approach? You have your landscape of use cases. You know you're on a journey towards an AI-enabled
Yeah.
set of features to resolve them. And I think looking at your AI use cases is a way where you kind of mature them through different stages of, let's say, AI enablement,
Yep.
where you move from this original very functional solution that's clicks
Mm.
and buttons on a screen towards something that's more automatic or that's
Yep.
more
That
then
re
apply
adds
that
new
level.
solutions. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Adds new solutions, reduces friction. Some it has to do something nice for you, right?
exactly.
Um, I would say the only thing I really care about as well as everything we've talked about, is that some teams are enabled to do wild experimentation because one of those things that some teams fall into is also constrain themselves in terms of not thinking about what's out there and what else could we be doing with this AI. And sometimes, typical 22-year-old intern tries something silly and it turns out to be one of the biggest products the company will have in a year or two. So I would just make sure that every company has to have the freedom for people to come up with silly ideas, right?
Working with AI models as well, it's harder to predict the success rate of
Yep.
your experimentation. Runs in shorter cycles, feedback loops, and iteration loops. That's a challenge in terms of how you manage your stakeholders. How do you decide on what to do next, right? So this
Mm,
is a bit different way of doing this, and as well, that's highly dependent on which kind of technology type
exactly.
you apply.
And that's a perfect segue for our next episode because we're out of time. So we've, looked at the overview, but we'll invite you to tune in for the next episode in which we'll talk about the old conundrum of build versus buy. How do you implement it with the teams? And, how would the whole thing look like with figuring out whether it works or not, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, how do you implement it all?
So stay tuned, and until the next episode. But thank you so much for listening to this, and do come bring us the feedback and ask us questions, and we're happy to bring them into an episode and discuss.